Hi guys, welcome back. I'll be your host today, Dr. Osebe Clinton. Uh, nice to be back here again after a couple of days. Last time we discussed about computational science, and today I'd like us to discuss about this new bill that is in Parliament, rather the Senate, and not many people are talking about it, especially if you come from the medical field. So let's look at this bill and what it's about and why we should what should we be on the lookout for? Sorry. So I'd like to give you a small story, maybe um, in the form of an allegory, just to paint the picture. You have a patient who walks into a pharmacy, gives you out a prescription that's AI generated, and ordinarily this is maybe okay to you. The year is, of course, 2 years from now, where AI has taken the root center stage in our practice. And unfortunately, this time after you override a decision by the AI, which clocks a possible interaction, but you say, no, 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 it's okay. Since this is your chronic ailment patient, for example, then 6 months down the line, an adverse event occurs. The family sues or lodges a complaint to the regulatory body, say PPB, and the AI Commissioner's Office. The bill, by the way, uh, establishes the AI Commissioner's Office. So they want to see your record, your training, and why did you even override this algorithm? Do you even are you such justified or not? Because now we're trying to follow up on why this adverse event occurred to this patient. Anyway, so let's look at what the bill actually does and how it fits into this whole allegory that I've just given you. So the bill creates a regulator and it classifies AI by risk from high to minimal. Of course, healthcare is a high risk by default. It imposes obligations such as pre-deployment risk assessments, transparency, and all that sort of thing. It creates patient rights, their rights to contest, their rights to demand for a human in the loop who will be now a medical practitioner or officer in this case, and it also imposes penalties for those officers who are, who have been found breaching the law. So let's look at the three most important section numbers that matter. We have section 25, section 26, and section 28. I'm sorry. Section 25 establishes or offers a risk classification. This is where we see the different tiers or tiers of AI in terms of risk. Section 26 tells us how to comply. What are some of the obligations that we must meet for us to be compliant to the bill? And by saying us, I just mean general stakeholders for those in the medical field. And then patient rights is highlighted as well in section 28. So I'm going to sort of break this bill down into four, or rather, view it from four lenses. First lens will be academics. What are some of the opportunities that are presented by this bill? Remember, this bill, it already assumes that you, as a medical practitioner, pharmacist, CEO, farm tech, all that stuff, uh, you are already acquainted with the AI tool and these algorithms, so you're perfectly okay with that. But really, does the curriculum take care of that? How is the gap looking like? And then business owners, we have a new compliance burden. As long as you deploy the EU, I'll tell you why I'm mentioning the EU, the European Union AI law. We borrow a lot from it when you look later at this bill. And the EU has sort of defined all these uh, handlers, will I say, of AI. We have the builders, we have the deployers. Deployers is basically you who is the user, and the builders are obviously the AI algorithm owners or creators of stuff like that. So we also have the manufacturers and then the regulators. So let's look at them. For the academics, of course, we have the curriculum question. Section 32 assumes qualified humans can audit AI outputs. and our current curriculum, in my point of view, or from my POV, is that we have not offered that yet to our medical students. So it will be interesting how we handle this. And then we have Section 31, where the bill mandates national AI literacy programs in partnership with educational bodies. And for higher learning institutions, of course, these are opening to fund pharmacy AI integration and look for such opportunities, be it through grants and what have you. We have the sandbox advantage from Section 29, which opens with postgraduate research pathways for pharmaceutical AI. Not this not only in academics, but it also applies to manufacturers. But let's stick to academics for now. So fast mover higher learning institutions, I don't want to stop at universities only, will definitely define that field. So what's the takeaway for us is that if our schools don't move, of course, uh, we'll have to hire these skills from somewhere else, and that's why we are pushing for upskilling of our pre-interns, our interns, and young career guys. Like this is the time to upskill. Anyway, for business owners, what are we looking at? Uh, I try to jog a little with this, so allow me. We are deploying AI in various ways, maybe through dispensing verification, inventory forecasting for be it retailers or wholesalers of pharmaceutical products or health products and technologies, uh, prescription validation, AI embedded point of sale systems. We are now more and more seeing them in our shops. So the moment we classify all these tools as high risk, then you, a deployer, are mentioned under Section 26, and therefore full compliance is expected of you. And then, what are some of the opportunities? Of course, in our day-to-day practice, we are looking at deploying these tools or algorithms or even devices that have integrated AI into uh, falsified medicine detection. I'm sorry, just for pharmacovigilance purposes and what have you. AMR stewardship, adherence tools when it comes to medicine uh, prescriptions. So you have to fast track in a way to market with to the market, of course, with regulatory cover. So if you are deploying all these tools, then this bill definitely concerns you. But we'll expound on that later. So for manufacturers, we have the DDM, documentation, disclosure, and marketing. From the documentation side, we have already seen the Pharmacy and Poisons Board launch AI use guidelines as part of GPP, I am guessing, Good Pharmaceutical Practices, and GMP. Uh, we covered that as Afia Data on our social media pages, at LinkedIn, Afia Data, uh, KE page, and even on Instagram. We have been sharing that on breaking down these PPB guidelines and what PPB as the regulatory body, a national regulatory body, what they expect of you as a business when you are using uh, AI devices. So part of those guidelines is of course the documentation. Then we have disclosure. We shall have annual compliance reports that will be submitted to the commission under Section 28, of course, because that's one of the mandates that that section specifies for the commissioner to undertake. So this means non-confidential portions of your business will go public. Non-confidential data will go public, and your competitors will be able to read them. Then, when it comes to marketing of your product, I'd say number one, you have to sort of disclose that okay, this is AI generated content. It needs to be explicitly stated, must be labeled, and there is, of course, liability, like we saw, criminal liability if you breach that. requirements. Yes. So this is something interesting I saw when I was going through that bill. The AI Commissioner's mandate overlaps with the Pharmacy and Poisons Board, the MOH, and county pharmaceutical officers. So there is no, like many other regulatory challenges, of course, in a highly regulated country like ourselves or like ours. The regulatory overlap usually occurs a lot, and we need to move. We need to say, okay, this is the call. This is a wake-up call, of course, to stakeholders and regulatory and professional bodies. You need to raise this question as early as now. Who undertakes what? What is the board fully in charge of? What is the AI commissioner fully in charge of? You don't want to find yourself in a case where under the board, maybe there is no legal repercussion of what you're doing, but maybe under the AI commissioner, that's a huge offense. Although I doubt there could be such a case, but hey, I can only be so sure as 99%. But yeah, that's it. I think there'll be a lot of, maybe what I'd say, there'll be a lot of, as a consequence of this, is there's a lot of implementation challenges where, oh, that's your job. No, that's your job. That's your job. That's your job. And yeah, I guess that's the most negative on the regulatory side where I can see. But on your side as the deployer, I see a lot of maybe fines, a lot of maybe how can I call them? Regulatory overheads or governance overhead, if I might say that. And therefore you need to familiarize yourself with these sections and be like, okay, maybe I don't need to pay this fee because this is just under the board, and all I need to satisfy is only the board asks for this case. Yeah, so that's another interesting area I caught. And let's now compare it with let's compare this bill with the EU Act, AI Act bill. You'll see something interesting. So the Act was passed in 2024, and that was, of course, it's this year it has been proposed. So let's look at the differences or similarities from length, risk tiers, healthcare penalties, and small and medium sized businesses. So the length, the EU AI Act, of course, it's pretty comprehensive. It covers, I mean, all those EU countries, so it has to be comprehensive. Ours is only 23 pages, and mostly detailed is delegated to regulations or other regulators. You like there's a some of these sections where if they mention maybe an AI commissioner's office and they say that the committee there's an expert committee, an advisory committee to the AI commissioner. The bill says that this committee shall undertake ABCD, ABCD. It leaves all that detail to them, and as compared to the UAI Act. And then we have they both have 4 tiers with the same structure, that is unacceptable, high, limited, and minimal risk. Healthcare, of course, has been named as high risk in both. Like I said, the obligations for us are to be prescribed later on. And then penalties. I found this interesting. Well, for our country, it's flat. It's a flat rate when it comes to penalties, and there's a 5 million max, and maybe a personal officer liability where you can be sued personally. And as for EU, we see it's tiered up to 7% of global turnover, and small and medium-sized businesses, they have lighter obligations, of course. As for our act, there is no proportionality whatsoever. We see a flat compliance regime in that, be it small, big, meaning you have to comply. And I guess here, of course, the bigger businesses will have an upper hand when it comes to things such as fines and stuff like that. I find that to be hmm, maybe some of my comments. So let's look at what Kenya had kept, what we have kept from their act, dropped, and what we have added in short. So we have borrowed, of course, the 4 tier classification system. the pre-deployment obligations, things such as risk assessment, transparency, human oversight, record keeping, and stuff like that. Synthetic media and likeness consent rules, like I have highlighted, you have to explicitly, especially with the marketing department, you have to explicitly state this was AI generated, and therefore it is in no way or form meant for the likeness of whoever, maybe a celebrity or who have you. We have the regulatory sandbox concept. We have the human-centric AI philosophy, where there's always at least a human in the loop, and gets to, they get to put out the fire before it, erupts. So what we have dropped is essentially we the details. We have not defined notified bodies and technical standards. We have, of course, left that to the experts who are now meant to maybe sit in other plenary discussions and take it from there. So tiered enforcement by company size, ours is a flat rate. Detailed worker rights and AI in employment chapter, I guess we don't have. And that calls for an interesting case that we do. I don't know if you guys remember this, but Meta was being sued by 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 because of maybe abusing some labor laws here in Kenya. And it was I think, if I remember well, it did set a precedence on AI labor laws. Something you should go look look up. Yeah, so we have tried to integrate. Let's look at what we have added. We have tried to, or they have tried, the proposer of that bill. They have tried to integrate cleaner with the Data Protection Act. This is now a big deal, especially in our profession. Medical data is very sensitive, and a lot of I think the KMPDC had given clinical practitioners in form of businesses, that is hospitals and clinics. I guess I'm not sure about the clinics, but hospitals have been told to comply with the ODPC by April. Was it this year? Yes, it was. Yeah, can't remember. Anyway, yeah. So mandated civil society and private sector sits on the advisory committee. This committee will look at what this committee is composed of. Then there's a personal criminal liability for corporate officers. Like I've just said, like upon punishment, you shall be fined 5 million shillings plus either, I think it's either and, yeah, either and. The officer shall also be held personally liable. So my sentiment is that we are borrowing a framework. Sorry, we are borrowing a framework built for a large, mature market and applying it to our market, which has very different characteristics. So I don't know about that, but yeah, let's look at what non-compliance actually costs. We have mentioned the 5 million shillings. There's 2 years imprisonment for deploying high-risk AI without compliance. There's 1 million shilling transparency fine for disclosure failures under Section 28. And then there's also 100% officer liability. That is, the directors with knowledge are personally guilty if a highly unethical AI was deployed, a high risk unethical AI was deployed with the director's knowledge, they shall be personally guilty. So let's look at how to prepare. Sorry about that. Let's look at how to prepare as different sectors. So for the academics, propose an AI in pharmacy curriculum module to the regulatory bodies, like to the responsible bodies like Ministry of Education and Ministry of Health. I saw recently, was it a few months ago, or was it a few weeks ago, there was a collaboration of sorts between the MOH and the MOE that was being announced so that they can produce what was that? maybe skilled professionals whose skills match the market demands or something like that. That's interesting. This is what they should be pushing for. AI not in only pharmacy curriculum, but the medical curriculum in general. So apply for grants, we've mentioned that, and then build relationships with this office, of course. Business owners, documentation is everything. And then identify one AI use case with clear patient benefits for the sandbox application that we've just talked about. Build compliance muscle before it's mandatory. I'll give you a good example. Open evidence. This is a platform where it's used as a clinical decision support tool. It's an American-owned company, by the way. Go check it out. Open evidence. They were geologues from the EU because of the EU AI Act. It was very interesting. Uh, they simply, I don't know, maybe it was their own management's decision. They don't want to comply with the with the with the with the EU AI Act, so they simply cannot be operational over there. They cannot be operational because this a platform. It's like Medscape for those who know Medscape. You as a physician, you log in. It's like medical chat GPT. Now, medical chat GPT, which has made actually has met the compliance requirements. I'm sorry, it's facing a new market. Now that's the whole market is up there for the taking. Simply because guys like Open Evidence who had already established their roots earlier on and had a whole market to explore, they have decided, you know what, maybe the market is not big enough for them, the European Union market. I don't know about that. So that's a very interesting case. Now the whole of their customer base in the EU cannot access that until they meet the regulatory requirements. So they say no. So the same case will go for us, if I might say, where you have business owners uh, who don't meet compliance requirements. They shall be in for a rude awakening. So instead of waiting, how about you prepare? That's what we are trying to say. Let's look at this bill and see how best we can prepare. Then we have manufacturers and also regulators. Regulators, I'd say, even for the RA practitioners, pharmaceutical RA practitioners, offer pharmaceutical regulatory expertise to drafting processes. Define overlap zones before they are defined for you. You already have PPB guidelines on the same that we have talked about, the newly launched ones that talk about AI assisted medical devices. Uh, try to define your own area as a regulatory officer before maybe this office is up and you're like, okay, but they have taken our role. What role that you never define? So yeah, mm, let's have that conversation then. That the career conversation that nobody is having. What next for us? I'd say uh, whether, of course, whether you want it or not, AI is here and it's being regulated even before it takes that machinani, you know, center hold that we like to refer to every time once technology pops up. Of course, when computers came, they came with their own downsides, but for the most part, upsides were or the advantages were felt. And for those who refused to stick to the times or go with the times, they were pushed aside, for lack of a better word. So, what's the commodity path like? The pharmacist who can't credibly oversee AI systems becomes, sorry, commodity labor in a way. That is, they're replaceable, they're skilled, and they're price pressured by chains that have automated upstream of them. Then the expert path, where if you are I wouldn't say pharmacist only, but also just let me say medical practitioner, anyone in the medical field who can read a model card, recognize training data bias, and audit these AI outputs. You get to sort of climb higher in your organization in terms of your career. Guys invested like right now in ethical AI. I'd also say they have a really good shot. There's something we did with the Pharmaceutical Society of Kenya a few weeks ago, and we talked about some of these career paths for medical practitioners who are just getting into this field or trying to acquire these analytical skills, AI skills, and what have you, and what next for them. It was a really interesting session. Unfortunately, can't plug the link. So here is our conclusion. The only question we have is, does the framework that governs it get shaped by us, right, in our own context, or by people who don't? So this bill is there to try and maybe give us an upper hand of sorts, if you look at it that way. It's not here. I won't say it's here to punish those who don't know anything about this, but maybe, but more to safeguard and protect our context. Uh, I'd say maybe that's why. Okay, I haven't seen some punitive punishment because it will be so discouraging to try and go, punish people heavily. Okay, maybe to small businesses, 5 million, of course, it's a bit too much. But to big businesses, 5 million is, and even medium businesses, maybe 5 million is. So, yeah, I'd say I don't see a lot on the punitive side, but I'm more concerned on, why are we assuming we have experts? Why aren't we preparing for these experts? And by experts, I don't mean importing experts, but ourselves becoming the experts, understanding our own laws that we set. Even when we borrow these laws from other countries that are advanced, how do they apply in our own context? How do we ensure that they are good for us? If we are not experts, we'd never know. So, yeah, so where to go from here? The primary sources, of course, I used to shoot this video was the AI bill. You can also refresh on the Data Protection Act, and the EU AI Act is also interesting. You could go have a read, but it's so lengthy. Maybe just find short videos that talk about it, and pick a thing or two. Yeah. Uh, these are some of the sections to go and look at broadly. I have a bigger document than this, but it's too wordy. So just in your own time, go look at maybe these sections 25, 26, all the way to where you have risk classification, high risk obligations, depending on your sector. If you are maybe interested with what's the plan for the government about AI literacy, maybe, and stuff like that, then you can be able to look at section 31 and so on. Otherwise, thank you so much for joining us today, rather joining me today. I hope we see you again.